Greetings and welcome back to another broadcast. Today's broadcast is entitled Maslow'S Hierarchy of Needs and Chakras, where we will examine both the hierarchy of needs chart and the 7 chakras. Before I begin, I present to you the Fair Use Act disclaimer, which is under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, which states allowance is made for fair use of copyrighted material for purposes of commentary, criticism, news reporting, research, education, teaching, and or scholarship. It provides for the legal, non-licensed citation and or incorporation of copyrighted material by others which might be infringing under other circumstances. And my next disclaimer is viewer discretion, which basically states the following broadcast contains mature themes and situations and is intended for adults. Viewer discretion is advised. So I would like to thank those that have come in, that may come in, and those who may catch the replay. There is a poll once you enter the broadcast, which asks the question, are you familiar with Maslow'S hierarchy of needs and chakras? So if you would like to participate, you can go ahead and answer that poll. There are just 3 answers: yes, no, or unsure. So with that, again, welcome to everyone and to those who may catch the replay. Right now, I am going to attempt share a screen. And again, fair use, which I've already displayed. And we'll look at briefly Maslow'S hierarchy of needs.
One of the most legendary ideas in the history of psychology is located in an unassuming triangle divided into 5 sections referred to universally simply as Maslow's pyramid of need.
Let me see who this comment is from. Hi there, Humberto. How are you? Long time, but welcome. Happy Saturday to you. So we're getting into the actual diagram. And on the thumbnail, you will see the pyramid, which includes 5 areas, which we'll be going over shortly. So again, this is fair use and welcome. And thank you for Facebook showing up. Again, fair use as we continue. Hi, Elaine Channel. How are you? And welcome.
This profoundly influential pyramid first saw the world in an academic journal in the United States in 1943, where it was crudely drawn in black and white, surrounded by dense and jargon-rich text, psychological analyses, business presentations, and TED Talks, and grown ever more colorful and emphatic in the process.
Okay, that being said, hi there, Melly. How are you? Welcome. So, quick question, and for those of you that have tapped in, one of these might be on my warm-up for my trivia. which I will be having tomorrow. That's something that I started with a long time ago when I first came on YouTube. Gotten away from it, but I'm getting back in the groove of things. So, those of you who are interested, please make sure if you want to play along and open up October on a happy, feel good note. You're welcome to join along. I love nostalgia, so most of my trivia will be oldies, old school movies, sports, TV shows, sitcoms, foods, you name it, it'll be there. Now, some will be new, but for the most part, it will be old. So, before I continue, does anyone know? And for those who may catch the replay, you are welcome to leave your guesses or answers. Who is the author of Maslow''s hierarchy of needs? Now, you already have the last name, but do you know the first name? Now, give those that are here, thank you, Facebook, for the thumbs up. Those that are here, if you know who is the author of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you can put it in the chat and we'll continue with this short video. Again, fair use. And the links will be in the description of this video.
Divided into 5 sections, referred to universally simply as Maslow's pyramid of needs. This profoundly influential pyramid first saw the world in an academic journal in the United States in 1943, where it was crudely drawn in black and white and surrounded by dense and jargon-rich text.
Hi there, Miss Chabs. How are you? Miss Chabs says, good morning. So I'm going to go ahead and assume it is Sunday where you are. But thank you for tuning in. So, any guesses as to who is the author of Maslow's hierarchy of needs? No cheating, but if you did cheat, the answer should be in the comment section. Hi there, Brainworks. How are you? Thank you, Miss Chabs. Thank you so much. So I'll wait a little bit, but I'm going to continue to present this video. Again, fair use, and thank you for those that have come in to support and those who will catch the replay. And we'll continue.
Purposeful for people, himself included, in modern-day America, a country where the pursuit of money and fame seemed to have eclipsed any more interior or authentic aspirations. He saw psychology as the discipline that would enable him to answer the yearnings and questions that people had once taken to religion. He suddenly saw that human beings could be said to have essentially 5 different kinds of need. On the one hand, the psychological, or what one could term, without any mysticism being meant by the word, the spiritual, and on the other, the material. For Maslow, we all start with a set of utterly non-negotiable and basic physiological needs for food, water, warmth, and rest.
Hey there. How are you, Empress? As you can see, and this might be right down your alley, Empress, because I know you're deep in the spiritual realm, but we're discussing Maslow's hierarchy of needs and chakras. So everybody, welcome, Empress. No names yet of the author of Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs? If not, no worries. We'll continue with this video again. This is fair use. And I'll drop the link later if anyone has anything they would like to add. And this is the first on Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs, which is actually, and keep in mind what I'm saying, this is the first. However, on the pyramid, you'll find it on the very bottom. This is your physiological needs, which includes your food, your water, your warmth, and rest.
In addition, we have urgent safety needs for bodily security and protection from attack. But then we start to enter the spiritual domain. We need belongingness and love. We need friends and lovers. We need esteem and respect. And lastly, and most grandly, we are driven by what Maslow called, in a now legendary term, an urge for self-actualization.
Now keep in mind, no problem, keep in mind the colors of this pyramid and what each represents. The goal, according to Maslow, and I'll go ahead and give you his name, it is Abraham Maslow, is the thought process that humans are seeking self-actualization, which is at the top of his pyramid. I believe, and I cannot speak for everyone, but I believe that many of us are somewhere around the middle. So let us continue. Again, fair use. And you can see the middle is here. Belongingness and love needs, which has your friends and lovers.
A vast, touchingly nebulous, and yet hugely apt concept involving what Maslow described as living according to one's full potential and becoming who we really are. Part of the reason why the description of these needs, laid out in pyramid form, has proved so persuasive is their capacity to capture a profound structural truth about human existence. Maslow was putting his finger with unusual deftness and precision on a set of answers to very large questions that tend to confuse and perplex us viciously, particularly when we're young. Namely, what are we really after? What do we long for? And how do we arrange our priorities and give due regard for the different and competing claims we have on our attention?
Hi there, Miss Lala Love. How are you? Peter, welcome from Facebook. How are you? And congratulations to your 49ers. I know you thought I forgot, but normally when I connect with people, I try not to forget too much. So, again, congratulations to your 49ers. And everyone is speaking to one another, which is awesome. So, thus far, please, if you would like, if you have not already answered the poll, are you aware of Maslow's hierarchy of needs and chakras? We went over a video, which again is under fair use. And as I mentioned, keep in mind the colors of the pyramid from Maslow's hierarchy of needs because it will tie into chakras. Miss Lala Love, how are you? I'm going to drop the link later if you would like to come up or if anyone would like to come up. And let me click over to make sure everyone has their tools to connect with one another. while you were all speaking. Give me 1 minute and I'll put this on mute while I make sure that happens. But again, your thoughts thus far on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And Peter says, we will face off against each other next Sunday night. San Francisco 49ers at Dallas Cowboys. May the best team win, and may we both get out of the game with no injuries. Absolutely. And thank you so much, Peter, for that. Awesome. And thank you for your support. So give me 1 moment, everyone. Okay, I believe everyone now has their tools to go ahead and connect with one another. And I'm still waiting to see if anyone has any comments as of yet as to Maslow's hierarchy of needs and what you think about that. And I'll give it a moment and I'll continue. And thank you to everyone that's tuned in and that'll catch the replay. Okay, the next video I'm going to show will go into chakras. And remember, keep in mind the pyramid of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the colors, and the correlation with chakras. So again, this is going to be fair use. And please be sure to leave any comments.
I'll switch to the Steadicam and give you a quick overview of each one of these in this video now. We're going to go through what the chakra is used for. Then we're going to go over the location of it in your body. We're going to go over what emotion that corresponds to you and why this matters. What happens if it is balanced in you, what you can experience or expect to experience, and some signs that it's not balanced. Much easier to throw these off balance than you.
Now already you can see some similarities, but as we go on, you will see some differences. But have you been able to automatically see colors and how they represent your inner realm? Let's continue with this video. Again, fair use.
would think. And if any one of these are not balanced, you're going to experience problems, and this video might show you why. Let me first give you an analogy, because you're like, what are chakras? Why even bother with this? Well, it's kind of like an engine in a car. That's the easiest way to understand it, right? What happens if one of those pieces of the engine is out of balance? Well, the other ones have to work hard to make the engine run. And then the car can have problems, like my 1965 Mustang right now. It's getting like $7,000 in repairs. You can tell it's not really bothering me. My point is that when all the pieces of the engine work together, that's how the car moves. And in motion, that's energy. So it's the same thing with you. When all the centers align, all these chakras right here, your energy is flowing and you perform well.
So there you see the correlation of energy and balance one should have in their life, their livelihoods, and the connection with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, because all of those in the pyramid are there. Hi there, Sana, how are you? To help get to balance, which is the last pyramid function, which is self-actualization. So let's continue. Hey there, PMTV, how are you? Good morning to you. So it's Sunday. Let's continue on with this video into chakras.
But if any one of these 7 that we're going to go over are out of balance, can throw the whole thing off and you stay stuck. I was talking to one of my mentors, Paul Chek, who I really respect. Sounds like I'm giving him a rap shout out. Paul Chek, I really respect. Promise to never do that again. He said something that absolutely blew my mind. I mentioned that there were 7 main chakra centers. Now, depending on who you go to, there can be 8 to 32 micro ones around your body. Not important. What is important is the 7. Well, how many colors are in the rainbow? 7. You're like, that's not really mind-blowing, Clark. Well, here's what is. If you've watched our videos, you know that musical notes and everything vibrates at a frequency, right? When you vibrate the notes times the speed of light, you get a color. And if you know anything about music or harmonics, in the scale do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, that's 8 right there. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, that's 7. So multiply each one of those by the speed of light and you will get, what do you think? Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet.
Okay, he just went over the 7 colors, the 7 colors within the chakras. So hopefully everyone was able to catch that. And I'm going to continue with this video. Again, fair use. And thank you for those that have come in and to those that will catch the replay. And I'll start right here.
Maslow, one of the godfathers of positive psychology, he had the hierarchy of needs. I've showed you that on this channel before.
And you will see and hear the connection with Maslow's hierarchy of needs in relation to chakras. This is an excellent starting point. And again, any comments you may have, please make sure you leave them in the comment section. And I will be dropping the link later for those who may want to chime in. You do not have to, but it will be available. Again, fair use.
And it's very similar to chakra systems, just more Western, and people accept it because these can be a little woo. But at the bottom of his is survival needs, these emotions that if these aren't met, doesn't matter, you can't ascend up. If it's balanced, you're going to have a lot of peace with your future. You're going to feel grounded. Most of us, if you're in a first world country, you don't really worry about this too much. Extreme trauma and life circumstances threaten this. And if it's not balanced, you'll have some of this. Overactive is greed or material possessions, being obsessed with that stuff for the wrong reason. So if you want to make money, there's nothing wrong with that. You can be rich, you can be spiritual at the same time. Money is energy, money is spiritual in my opinion. But if you're over-identified with material stuff and you're greedy at all costs, that's a big red flag.
Now that is, hey there, Dr. Bombay, how are you? I'm going to drop the link later. If you would like to come up and speak on this, you may not, but for those who would like to, you are very much welcome. We are speaking about Maslow'S hierarchy of needs and chakras, and he just stated greed and the want for material things. So again, let us continue. Hi there, Koala, how are you? And we'll continue with this video, which is fair use. And we're speaking about the chakras.
Pun intended, because that's coming from over excess need for survival, for resources. You're hoarding it. Make sense? How do you fix this? What are some things? Well, this video isn't going to geek out on how to go through each one. That would just be too long and no one wants to watch that. For all of these, it's worth mentioning there are crystals that help with these. If you believe that or not, there's sound therapy. So different frequencies you listen to, like I mentioned, the light sound bridge, right? You can listen to those. There's checking in and identifying where your problems are with these chakras and doing that. There's Reiki healing. One of the things to get really good and grounded is going outside and stepping your bare feet on the grass. When you do this, you're getting the negative ions from the earth, and it's going to remove positive charged particles from you inside, which a lot of the toxins and poisoning and heavy metals, they have a positive charge. And so it'll act like a magnet and just suck it right out. Pretty cool. Moving on. Right here, we got orange. Fun fact, in college, I was a male cheerleader, and we were the orange men. We'd wear these prison jumpsuits, and we'd run around at the basketball games. It was a private college, so we were the rowdy frat.
Keep in mind the colors and what they represent, as we will come back to examine those further. Again, fair use. And Sana, you're welcome to drop your links for those to come visit if they would like. It's about supporting over here, so that's no problem. Okay, again, let's get back to the video. Fair use and chakras.
Frat boy, orange men. This is associated with sexuality, and after just telling you that story, you might be questioning mine. It's located around your navel, and this is called the sacral chakra. Okay, it's associated with sexual energy and your sexuality, passion, joy, positive association with sex, good sex life. This stuff is a balanced sacral chakra. Now, I know the dudes out there, you're like, oh, I got a super balanced one, man. He said that, like I'm all there. Not so fast, because a lot of times too much emphasis on sex or sexual energy can actually show an imbalance, either not enough or too much, so low libido.
So, for the gentlemen in here, your thoughts on that, if you would like to share or contribute. I thought that was interesting. Not trying to put anyone on the spot, but I thought that would be a good segue in. So let us continue with this video on chakras. And again, keep in mind the colors. You are welcome, NN and the pets. That is for you to connect with those that you may want to connect with. Again, it's fair use. Hey there, Maybach, how are you?
can be an imbalance here in this chakra. Another sign of it not being balanced, if you have a lot of shame or guilt around sex, or if you watch porn and it make you feel good, look, telling you what to do. You can do whatever you want. We're all functioning adults. I don't care what you do in the bedroom. To each their own. I'm not going to judge. But just check in there. If you are watching a lot of porn, that's going to disrupt this sacral chakra, because no one like watches that and then after is like, I'm crushing it. I feel awesome about myself, right? It's a very low vibrational state that'll suck you down. And that's the real trap of it. God isn't going to kill you for touching your genitals. Your hands aren't going to grow hair on them. The real downside is what you do to yourself. And that's the aftermath, which is the guilt and shame that come with it. Make sense? Next up.
And again, not putting any of the gentleman on the spot, but your thoughts in reference to that statement as far as, well, you heard what he said. If you're comfortable with leaving a comment in reference to that, you are welcome. If not, we will move right along. Thank you, Maybach. And again, fair use as we look into chakras.
We got your solar plexus, man. This is located right here in my six-pack. Girlfriend says the only six-pack I have is a pack of Michelob's at night. It's not beach season yet in Arizona, so I got an excuse. The emotion your solar plexus are associated with are wisdom. Okay, think about that. You know, I told you digestion, that stuff, but what's right here besides my Adonis physique? My eyes are up here, okay? Your gut. And what do they call something when you're trying to get really intuitive? You know, you should trust your gut. You got to listen to your gut instinct. Gut instincts are so powerful because that's your inner wisdom right there. And, you know, I was reading this book that's not the easiest thing to read unless you like CSI and SVU and all those shows, called The Gift of Fear. And it's all about gut instincts and how powerful fear is.
Now, your thoughts on that? How fear can actually turn into power. We've always heard of, hey there, Edna's Wald, how are you? Fight or flight. That's akin to adrenaline. Again, keep in mind, Maslow'S pyramid, the colors and the colors on these chakras. And welcome to those that have come in, those that may catch the replay. Oh, you're welcome, Edna. Again, fair use.
When you listen to it at your gut, that there's accounts of women who in the book, they open the door for a stranger coming into their apartment building and they're like, this doesn't seem right. I don't like something fishy about this dude. I shouldn't get in the elevator with that guy. But they do it out of politeness and wanting to not offend people. And
now this is a very good place to stop this video, or to pause it rather. How many of you, and those that will catch the replay, you're welcome to leave a comment, have had that gut feeling when you're on an elevator, if you're outside, or you meet with a stranger, or perhaps someone you know, you get a strange feeling that tells you or alerts you that you may not want to be that good Samaritan, not because you do not have a good heart, but something inside is telling you that there may be something dangerous ahead. Any of you felt like that? If so, please put in the comments, or if it makes it easier, you can type a 1 in the chat. Again, I'm going to continue with this video. This is on the chakras. And thank you to everyone that has come in, those that have shared the video. I appreciate you. Again, fair use.
and then they end up being like some serial murderer, and they have to like run across the other room, hide, and then make a mad dash out the door and escape for their life. Gut instinct, so powerful. There's also a gut-brain connection. You are more bacteria than cells in your body. Billions, if not trillions of little microbes functioning in there that absorb all the nutrients and feed it to your brain. They can also have hormones in your gut. You know, most of your serotonin, the feel-good, happy hormone, it's not produced in your noggin right here. It's produced in your gut, 90% of it. Isn't that fascinating? So before I get ranting and raving about the gut and turn this into a nutrition video, purpose, self-worth. If your solar plexus are balanced, that chakra, you're gonna have a lot of self-worth. You're gonna feel on purpose for things. If it's out of balance, you're gonna have a lot of judgment towards people. If you constantly find yourself gossiping or complaining, or like someone comes up online on social media,
Awesome segue into my next comment. For those of you who may be perusing or who have perused the YouTube streets, depending upon what sectors you go into, there has been an influx of what he just spoke of, the gossiping, the trash talk, if you will. To me, some of it can be low vibrational and extremely negative. So with that, let us continue with this video on chakras. And feel free. Oh, I'm going to drop the link later, D. Jarrell. You'll probably bounce out, but this is, to me, an awesome, awesome broadcast for those that understand the needs chart and the chakras and how they both can interact with one another. And I would be interested to know how you use this theory in your therapy practice, and I'm sure others would as well. So you too have your tool. Everyone, this is licensed therapist D. Jarrell. You are very much welcome to connect with him as well. Again, fair use. And this is on chakras.
media, right? You just judge them and you go to the profile and you stalk them, like, why are they doing this? Not that I've ever done that, right? I'm sure you haven't either, right? But that comes from this being disaligned. And lastly, if you have a them versus me vibe with people, like you're in a group and it's like all of them are out to get me, or everyone's talking about me, or it's them and they all hate me, and you get in your head about that, that's an imbalance here in your solar plexus. One quick tip on how to realign this: deep breathing, diaphragmatic breathing. So where your belly comes out and it goes back in. And we have a breathwork exercise video.
Hey there, conscious energy. How are you? Now, I think that right there in itself is an excellent practice. That is something that I practice. Again, before you add, modify, subtract anything for your daily health regimen, your mental regimen, because I am not under any of those umbrellas, please consult with your medical team first. And this video is almost over with, but I will drop the link if D. Jarrell or anyone would like to come up to speak further on chakras, Maslow'S hierarchy of needs. This is psychology. D. Jarrell, I know this is down your alley. I'm not going to hold you to it, but just thought something, yes, that you would be interested in or could educate us more, because you are the licensed professional. So again, this is fair use. Yes, relaxation techniques. And I've been using them like crazy, and I think it would benefit others as well.
Video on here that's fantastic. I walk you through 3 sets of breath work that I got personally from Wim Hof. He taught me how to do it, and I'm showing you. There's also some Ayurvedic breathing in there as well. And call it whatever you want, doesn't matter, it works. So if you want to get high on your own supply, that breath work video, watch it after this, try it for 10 minutes. It's free to do. You don't have to do anything but sit there and breathe. What do you have to lose?
Again, these are not my suggestions. This is on the video. So before you add, subtract, or modify anything, consult with your physician first. I have to say that to remain prudent and responsible. So no one can come back and say, well, Dole said I should. No, she didn't. I'm just sharing a video. So with that, let us continue. Thank you to everyone that has come in. Make sure you hit that like button and leave any comments. I'll be dropping the link momentarily as we finish up with this video on chakras.
That will knock you off your rocker. Let's talk about your heart chakra right here in the middle of your chest. Now notice something. It is green. It is not red. It is not pink, the associations with your heart. It's green. Much like nature is green, the heart of life, everything, right? Ray Kroc, founder of McDonald's, said that when you're green, you're growing. And when you're ripe, you start to rot. So you never want to stop growing. You never want to stop being green. Function is to regulate all emotions, okay? So all your emotional centers will come from your heart chakra, your heart center. Some signs if it's balanced. These are love for yourself. So if you love yourself, that's a good sign that it's balanced. And then naturally, that'll extend out to love of all. So if you love the people around you, if you're a very loving and caregiving person, good sign you're in balance. If your heart chakra is blocked, you will have intense daddy issues. I'm just kidding, maybe. You're gonna have relationship issues, okay? Because again, your relationship with everyone starts with yourself. And if you don't
Coach D, I'm not sure if you're still there. However, that was very poignant. If you do not love yourself as it relates to relationship issues, hopefully everyone was able to see that chakra and the color of that. Thank you, Leonia. And we'll continue. Again, fair use. And we're looking at chakras. And welcome, conscious energy.
love yourself, how can you love someone else? I was geeking out on Osho, the cult leader, but he had some very great ideas that influenced me in my thinking. He says there's three kinds of relationships: dependence and codependence. These are what most people are in. One person's dependent on the other person's like, you're smothering me. Codependence is where both people are like that. But then the third one, which is healthy, is interdependence, where you're both self-full enough that you come together and you become three instead of just two, because you have a relationship there together that's stronger, and that's the reason you're coming together in the first place. I will note here that some good things to increase this. If you don't have a relationship, you're like, I'm so lonely, oh my God. Petting animals can be great for this. Taking care of something that's, yours or not yours. Children, younger brother, younger sister, niece, nephew. That's a great way to heal this as well. Next up, we got blue, dabba-dee, dabba-die. We're going with the throat chakra.
Hello there, King of Kampala. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. Welcome. Haven't seen you before, but you are welcome as well. Now keep in mind again, the correlation of the colors. Let us continue with chakras. Again, this video is fair use.
Right here. This is in your neck. And its use is for communication, because it's coming from the throat. Vocal cords, obvious. Speak your authentic truths. That's a good version. That's balance. When you feel like you're expressing yourself good and you're speaking up for yourself and you can agree and disagree in a conversation respectfully, right? And just speak from your core. Great example of when this is balanced. Now, it's out of balance if you got secrets or silence or violence. Okay, so if you feel like you're keeping secrets, or you can't speak up, or you have to hold your tongue around people, maybe at work, I just got to remain quiet around that person. I can't stand them, that coworker. Becky, she always does that. Frickin' Becky. I will say, if you're a good communicator, that does not always mean that this is in balance. Just ask my girlfriend. She might say that my throat chakra is a little overactive. Fuck, you got any exercises to close that thing? Silence and violence is something that I want to underscore for you. I got this from Crucial Conversations. Great book if you struggle with communication.
Now, I think this is going to be very, very important in this part of the broadcast. So, silence, violence. And this is the throat chakra. Again, fair use. And thank you all that have come in.
Communication, especially with interpersonal communication. It's all about how there's two extremes, okay? When people get in a crucial conversation where the stakes are high, results matter, and opinions vary, those are the three things from it, you go to one or two extremes, okay? So some people, they go into violence mode. They feel challenged. You see this a lot in politics when people are discussing on the internet and they just start lashing out. Well, I bet you, blah, 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 fill in the blank, right? They're violent with it. They're like, because when people feel attacked with their beliefs, they feel attacked. And so they respond with violence. Silence is the other opposite. This is where I tend to be, believe it or not, in conversations or when things come up, I like go into myself. I withdraw. I don't say anything. I have a hard time expressing myself. I can talk right now and sound articulate or like halfway there. But man, if I'm in a conversation where we're having a serious talk, like I have a hard time expressing myself. And I get too in my head because I'm afraid to express it. And that's a silence extreme right there. Okay, so if you have either of those, that comes back to the throat chakra. But most of the time, people, if it goes back to speaking your truth and feeling like you can voice your opinions and that you matter. Next up, we got your...
Now to me, this next chakra is one of the most important. Again, this is just my opinion, so let us continue with the next chakra. Again, this is fair use. And thank you to everyone that's come in. Truly appreciate you.
Your third eye right here, okay? This is located between your eyes, as you can see by my elementary drawing right there. I'll actually pull a little weatherman and move over here. Today we got 1,020 degrees in Scottsdale, Arizona. What a surprise. This is associated with inner wisdom, okay? It's balanced if you can connect with your higher self, or you feel like you have a soul inside that's guiding you. If you feel like you're getting guidance from your higher self, good sign right there. If you have a lot of self-doubts and you're unsure about what you believe, or you feel like things are in a flux, you feel like you're learning, and the more you learn, the more you realize you don't learn. And what does this all mean anyways? I don't have any purpose. I feel depressed and lost in life. Okay, this is associated with your third eye.
Again, for those that are listening, those that are here live or will catch the replay, this is the third eye chakra that he is explaining. Again, fair use.
A lot of times, my message for this channel, last night, it was this morning, I woke up at 4 a.m. I couldn't sleep. I was so on fire to make videos for you. And we're talking about a lot of different ideas, and I feel like it's authentic. It's coming from my higher self. It's coming from a place where I can't even describe it. And so I journaled, like, one of the main things I want to give is that there's nothing to give, that you already have it within you. You're already enough. And learning isn't about the new thing, the new tactic, the new guru who's going to give you the plan. Here's how to live a fulfilled life, as much as it is reconnecting with your inner knowledge and what you already know. Long-winded way of saying, I'm trying to show you how to be more of you, not more of me, not more of anyone else out there. And one of my big pet peeves in the spirituality space, the deeper I get, and from a business marketing standpoint, I watch some of the gurus who have 1 million subscribers. It's like they're positioning themselves like, I have some secret knowledge that if you follow everything I say, maybe you'll be enlightened. And anyone who does that, bragging that they've been to the Himalayas, they play into like this cliche guru. Is that really authentic? Who knows? Maybe it is. I can just see through that and call BS immediately once I know marketing, and that is marketing to this idea that people have, these cliches of what a guru or what advice people are supposed to.
Now, how many of us know, I've heard people that purport the same thing? Not judging, but I'm sure at least some of us have had that experience. Let's continue. Fair use.
To present themselves as, I'm trying to say it's fake. It's fake AF. And if you get real AF, you're going to be way freaking happier. You're going to be happy AF. And that's my whole mission on this channel with you. And hopefully, I mean, smash that like button if you agree, all right? Preach. But that's my whole mission, is I want to make you more of you, not more of other people, not a carbon copy of anyone else. And once you do that, you will be happier. And that is the entire secret. Last, and certainly not least, you have your crown chakra. This is violet. This is the
Okay, this is the crown chakra. And remember, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, what is at the top of the pyramid is self-actualization. So let us continue with the ending of this video. Again, fair use.
top of the head, right? Your third eye is right here. Your crown's a little bit above that. And it's important to note here, when you see angels depicted or Jesus depicted in scriptures and drawings and stuff, what do you always notice? You notice a halo, almost like this crown floating above them, this light glowing from their head, enlightened beings, right? It's very interesting to note there. Maybe that's referring to the crown chakra right there, because this is associated with spirituality. When you're more spiritual, you realize that we're all connected, and what hurts other people or isn't good for other people isn't good for yourself. This is not a zero-sum game. For you to win doesn't mean someone else has to lose. We can all win together. And if anything, if other people are losing, that means that we're all losing, okay? Because we're a consciousness on the planet, like I showed you in those CIA docs, which is a great video you can geek out on. When you're disconnected from this, you experience intense isolation, okay? If you feel like I'm a lone wolf, you know, Earth is a lonely place. I feel isolated. I feel alone. Well, that's not connected to the global consciousness. One point I want to illustrate now that we have these chakras up here. Remember at the beginning of this video, I gave you this light sound bridge, right? I gave you the engine analogy. One other analogy that Osho says in his writings, you can tell I've been geeking out on that stuff. Notice that there's 7 cycles here, okay? And as you get older, these start to develop. And Osho says that we have a 7-year cycle that we go through, and then we're essentially reborn. And what's crazy, and I get goosebumps, is that if you look at cellular biology, right, your cells are always turning over, they're going through autophagy, they're catabolizing themselves, and then the new ones pop up. Well, they say that about every 7 years, your entire body is essentially replenished.
And you can see where he refers to 7-year cycles, the number 7, and the 7 chakras. Hi there, JD and Kent. How are you? And we'll continue the remainder of this video. Again, fair use. And thank you to everyone that's come in. And I'll drop the link after this if anyone has anything they would like to add.
Itself. All your cells have made you into a new being, essentially, right? They've renewed themselves. And the only reason you're still the same and not liquidizing and falling apart like some jellyfish is because you got DNA structure, you have memory within those cells. So every 7 years, you go through a stage. 0 to 7, you're focused on survival, right? That's what Osho says. He says it's all about you. You're just trying to survive. You can't survive without a nurturing mother, right? Because they have to feed you. We're like one of the only animals where we can't walk out of the womb, right? We can't even crawl. We're very dependent. Then 7 to 14, you're getting more into this. This is when you go through puberty, things start to develop. 14 to 21, you're getting into wisdom. What do I actually believe? You develop this sense of I, these teenage years. Isn't this cool? And then your heart right here, regulating emotions. When you're 21 to 28, you normally get married. A lot of people do. You get in relationships. You find out what you want. 28 to whatever the heck plus 7 is. I failed elementary math. Communication. That's normally when you're in a corporate career, right? And you're moving up. 30s and 40s. Later on, you see people getting wise. They go, okay, now that I've developed, what about us as a whole? That's why you see wise elders. So I love that 7-year cycle that correlates to the chakras and the patterns of life. It's really beautiful. What's also beautiful is smashing the heck out of that like button. In the comments below, if you learned one thing new, I want you to
JD and Kent, thank you. And thank you for coming in from Miss Chab. So that was an overview of Maslow's hierarchy of needs and the 7 chakras. I'm going to drop this. In the event anyone has anything they would like to add, if not, I will close this out and thank everyone that stopped by. And if you were able to glean anything from those 2 videos, the first one was Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and then the second was chakras. Oh, no problem, Edna's Bug. Thank you. Truly appreciate your continued support as well as everyone else. So I will leave that link there for a couple of moments. And if no one has anything they would like to add, yes, I ate earlier my homemade broccoli soup. I will close this out and get ready for tomorrow. But that's a lot of information. Again, I'll make sure that all of this is in the description for those of you who are interested and would like to view it again or independently. And I'm sure everyone has their tools to connect with each other. So again, I'll leave that link there for a couple of moments, and then I will close it out. And again, I want to thank everyone that did come through and those that'll catch the replay. Hi there, Coach D. How are you?
Hey, how are you? Glad to be here.
So, your thoughts. You said that you were actually using some of those techniques in your therapy. So, I'm going to put my
Yes.
mic on. Well, first of all, introduce yourself to everyone.
Okay. Well, hey everybody. If you're not familiar with me, I've been on here several times. Definitely interviewed with you several times. Been a while, but my name is D. Durrell. I have several YouTube channels. I am a licensed professional therapist. I'm a psychotherapist. I have been practicing for over 16 years. Been working in mental health for over 20 years. I do specialize in dealing with issues of depression, anxiety, PTSD, psychosis. I cover a lot of family related issues, trauma related issues. So I kind of cover a variety of different areas under my license. I do teach and talk about things related to the Black community the majority of the time, but I do cover other things as it relates to mental health and the business of mental health on my D. Durrell Life Solutions. And also you can see me on D. Durrell The Rebirth and D. Durrell The Rebirth Live as part of the Umar Johnson sector and the Black sector or the Manosphere. So that's kind of the areas I'm at.
Okay, so what would you like to contribute to what you saw as far as Maslow's hierarchy of needs with the first, which is the last? And I think that's actually awesome if you think about psychology and how things are presented to us if you're into the Bible and spirituality. And Blackbird is speaking to you. Hey there, Blackbird, how are you? Yes, King of Kampala. The self-actualization is actually at the tip of the pyramid on Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs chart. And some of the colors are similar to the chakras. And the video that you came in on, you spoke about breathing and relaxation techniques. So if you would like to go further into that, I think that would be awesome.
Okay.
And I'll put my mic on you. And thank you so much.
So the first thing I would like to I want to start with the touch on the hierarchy of needs. And there's several things as far as nuances of Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs that people must understand as far as the process in which one becomes self-actualized, which is the basis of his. When we're looking at his hierarchy of needs, it's based on human functioning based on their environment, and as far as human beings interacting not only within their environment but also as far as you function at a higher level, as you are connected and finding meaning within your life. And when we talk about meaning in your life, we're talking about relationships, that as far as with your family, with a spouse or partner, and also with what you achieve in life or in things like that, or as far as what you do in a profession that you choose, and as far as that gradual progression. Um, when you look at the steps, and what I see a lot when people do discuss it, they kind of focus a lot on the top, which is the overall goal. And I think that needs to be an understanding the process to get to the top. And in training, as we kind of talked about, which is Maslow is part of what is called humanistic psychology, which means that it focuses on all aspects of the human experience that affects the mind, them socially, psychologically, physically. Um, as far as the dynamics of relationships, as far as what human beings make sense of their reality. In order for one to become self-actualized, you have to have mastered or accomplished the four previous steps. So
Okay,
the
I have a
difference,
quick question before you go
yes,
on, because I know you're getting ready to go in deep, which I love that. Does one know when they've mastered the previous four, or is there a checklist that's internal, or do they need to be told?
for the most part, you can gain validation from others, but also within yourself. Um, you can realize that you've accomplished one, because in accomplishing the lower, whatever the lower need is, you're able to function at the higher need. So you can't skip steps. Like, it's very difficult for one to become self-actualized if you don't have basic safety needs, if you don't have basic physiological needs, if you don't have an ability to love or and belonging. And I want y'all to understand, when we're talking about love and belonging, we're not just limiting it to just um, romantic or personal relationships. We're talking about with friends, with family. You have to have other people that you're able to show those emotions to, and you have to have a high self-esteem, or a healthy self-esteem, in order to become self-actualized.
Now,
So,
now, what's
and
the
so,
difference? I'm sorry, because I want to make sure that I have everything correctly, or at least my understanding. What is the difference between a, or is there a difference between a high self esteem as opposed to a healthy self esteem?
okay. Now, as far as a high self-esteem, a person can have a high self-esteem and it's somewhat inflated. And so when I kind of said high self-esteem or healthy, a healthy self-esteem meaning that it is basically the type of self-esteem that is functional in any environment, that doesn't put yourself in a situation where um, people think how you think of yourself or feel of yourself may be somewhat not congruent to what the reality is for yourself. And so a person that is narcissistic has a high self-esteem, or appears to have a high self-esteem, but is not healthy. And so that to me is probably one of the best examples of how a person can think highly of themselves, or they have, or they have more of an embellishment, or of who they are and what they can achieve and how they feel about themselves, but it's not necessarily healthy. It can also be dysfunctional. And so a person with a healthy self-esteem will behave and carry themselves in a way that's actually equal to where they are in life, as far as they're not trying to necessarily present themselves in a manner that's not true. And a person that's healthy will be in line with where they are in life. They're not trying to please anybody. They're not trying to fool anybody or lie. They're pretty much, it's kind of like you see what you get. And if I'm comfortable with who I am, I can't be nothing else but who I am, even not for anybody. And if I'm fine in my own skin, I will continue to do that whether you like me or not. That's the difference. A person that's more of an unhealthy self-esteem may try to convince you through all type of manipulative ways that they're at a certain level, or put them on a pedestal. The constant need for validation and praise, that's unhealthy. And so in my position, and just kind of thinking about that would be one of the kind of the better examples that can be a difference between the two.
Now, what are some examples from your professional observations from people and experiences, and perhaps clients? And of course, I am not asking you to divulge that information as far as clients, but what would you say would be the top characteristics of those who inflate, or those who are seeking, or those who have sought validation from others, whether it be tangible or intangible?
Okay. Well, a person who's seeking that validation, what they'll tend to do is focus on characteristics that they know people are drawn to. Okay. And I'm gonna give you an example. A person who may be middle class, but they're trying to present themselves as if they have millions of dollars. And so what they'll go about doing is buying or purchasing things that they can't afford, and such as clothing, cars, or even a house, to convince others that they're at a level that they're really not. So if other people validate that, then it makes them feel that they've accomplished something. So it's almost like you're basically again putting on a facade, and you're being almost like a con man. You're basically trying to fool someone based on what you think you deserve or what you should have, and you're trying to, and you want other people to believe the lie of that you believe for yourself. And so particularly people on this, that they go through extreme measures to get that validation from you at their own, and they participate in a lot of self-defeating behaviors in the process.
Now, would you say manipulation is also a characteristic? And what would, in your professional opinion, drive someone or many to partake in these types of behaviors?
Manipulation is a big part of it. It's a big part of manipulating others to think in a certain way, to put themselves on a pedestal, for others to put them on that same pedestal. And so the heart of that is the fact that this person really doesn't have the comfortability of oneself as they think they have. They're really not as I would say confident as they would want you to believe. And so in seeking that, they're going to go through negative and manipulative means, very, very clever means of convincing you of that. And when others say these things of validation, it basically fuels that hunger to continue to get you to believe those things, and also convincing themselves that they're at a level, or they have a certain qualities that they don't necessarily possess.
Awesome. So, for those, and this is no knock on anyone's intelligence, because I think many of us are empaths and we like to give people the benefit of the doubt. But what would you say, in your professional opinion, to those that have been quote unquote bamboozled, perhaps, or had the wool pulled over their eyes? What would you say to that? Because, in my observation, and this is completely non professional, but that is happening a lot on many social media platforms. And I know for a fact you've seen it. What would you say to that?
Okay. So when it comes to situations like that, in which people see those type of behaviors, right? And a lot of people do a lot of content and they use the term like someone being, selfish, or they're being narcissistic, and things like that. And so it's very difficult to understand the ulterior motive of a person, particularly those who are not cammed up, because you don't know, you really, it's hard to gather it based on you knowing what really is going on in their real life. But let's just say, for the purposes of the question, we look at merely their behavior on social media. Okay, let's just go with what we see, and let's just start with there. So, looking at it from a professional standpoint, I'm looking at the length of time, the intensity, and how consistent they try to act in this manner. And so, usually, a person that does this has some other characteristics or some other issues in their real life that other people cannot be aware of, or it'd be very difficult to find out. So they use YouTube as a means of escape from that reality. So therefore they create a persona to make them feel good about themselves, because in real life they're unable to make themselves or be happy with themselves based on where they are at the level they are in real life. So YouTube can present an instrument, or can present a avenue to deter from the reality, so that you can get a quick fix or a high on social media. And that's one of the bases of why people create false personas, because in doing that, you can be who you want, you can say what you want, you can say this, nobody really knows me, nobody can really validate that, and at the same time I could potentially make money. So those are some of the dynamics or factors that contribute to people doing and saying certain things, because based on the fact that you're on this platform, you don't necessarily have to be accountable for the fake persona that you're putting out. Now, in real life, it's harder, because people are going to hold you accountable, that see you and they know this is occurring. But even if someone doxes you or finds out that you're not this or that and you're lying about it, it's still more of an indirect means, because you don't necessarily know that person. You can always challenge what they say, and you can still have a certain amount of people that are going to follow you just because of the fact that they just like the content. So there's a lot of things that contribute to that. But what makes social media so attractive is that you can reinvent yourself, even if it's the direct opposite of what you are in real life.
Is that dangerous? Or could it be dangerous? Because I've been hearing a lot of words floating around, um, addiction to be one. I've heard many people say that some have become absolutely addicted to social media, where they wake up, and instead of giving thanks, they may go straight to social media, or before they lay down to slumber, the last thing they do before prayer, if they even pray, and I'm not being preachy, but it's social media. What are your professional thoughts? Or it doesn't even have to be professional, just your personal. thoughts on that? Because I've seen, in my opinion, people really get consumed. It's like instead of consuming or enjoying the consumption of content, I see some, not all, actually being consumed, where some people change, and it's not always for the good, and not everyone. But again, this is just my observations, and wondering if you've seen that, or what would you attribute that to?
When we look at addiction, okay, and I look at when you talk about social media addiction, it is a real thing. It is something that's very prevalent. And you also see a lot of the YouTubers or social media figures that are very disruptive and toxic. Many of them are also addicted. And so, what contributes to the addiction is the fact that the person who is addicted knows that if they go live, they're going to have X amount of people that are going to be there. It's the support that fuels the addiction. It's the attention. It's the validation of those that you don't know saying you're doing a great job. This is great content. You entertain me. You get me through the day. Many of these people who are addicted never were able to have this level of influence with people in real life. One of the main characteristics of people who watch social media are content creators. Most content creators that I know, many of them, are not the most social people in real life. Most of them. And to me, I'm going to say a large percentage of those who are what I consider what we call big YouTubers are more social, more uh, successful YouTubers that are making thousands and thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're not always the most sociable people in the world. And as I've been on YouTube as far as content creation for 6 years, and I have noticed in a lot of situations in dealing with people on YouTube, many of them don't have a lot of friends. Many of them have very few friends or no friends. Many of them don't have strong families, or they don't have a lot of family connections. Some are socially awkward. Many of
Now,
them
what
may
is
have. Oh, go
now
ahead.
before you go off with that horse? What is your professional definition and the basic textbook definition of socially awkward?
Um. Okay. So when we talk about someone being socially awkward, now there is a disorder in the DSM, which is called social anxiety disorder. That's more linked with awkwardness. But there are also other behavioral disorders that can also or other disorders that also can make one appear awkward in the social situations. One is like autism spectrum disorder has a level of awkwardness. A person who has um, who's diagnosed with an intellectual deficit disorder, or what we in the past we used to call mental retardation at some level, that shows signs of awkwardness. And that's more the extreme, because what we're talking about is more functional people that may not have autism, or they may not have a intellectual deficit at some level. But when we're talking about people who have the mental capacity, but for whatever reasons they are awkward, there could be some levels of anxiety that may be contributing to that. And so people who have maybe some level of a phobia or an anxiety disorder or stress-related disorder may appear awkward and unstable in social situations.
And is the social media platforms somewhat of a band-aid to that?
Yes, yes. It's not, to me, it's not necessarily a band-aid. It's a way in which it can, because it's not, I'm not going to say it's covering it up, because um you're not necessarily covering it up. What I will say is that by engaging in social media, in this social media environment, it doesn't make direct communication or direct socialization a factor. So when you're on social media, it basically cuts out or severs you're kind of cutting off or separating yourself from direct interaction. And so it's almost a way in which you can take away a factor that contributes to your awkwardness. And so social media in a way eliminates that, because when you're on here and you're interacting, it's not direct communication, it's indirect, because the person is not in your presence, the person is not in your environment. You don't really know these people, they don't really know you. You can basically do things and say things and be more comfortable because of that, the reality of that, as opposed to people who are in your neighborhood, who are in your environment, whether you're at school, home, work. These people can actually touch you. These people can actually directly talk to you, engage, and you know where you are. As opposed to social media, those things, those barriers don't exist. And so that was allows them to repetitively repeat the behavior, because they don't have to deal with that form of communication and socialization. So a person who has social anxiety or some level of anxiety in that manner won't feel that level of anxiety by merely talking to an avatar, or by merely being, put on a panel, or even if they're cammed up, they don't feel that it's direct. Therefore, it makes them more comfortable to interact. But if you put that same person in a conference with the same people that they interact with on YouTube, let's say they were in a conference where everybody saw you face to face, you had to speak, then that awkwardness would present itself because the environment changed.
So that sounds like it could be, and I don't know the statistics, but most people, as it relates to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, would fall in the middle, where their needs are friendships or lovers. That was in the middle.
Well, I'm gonna say this, and
Okay.
as I was going through this and see, I'm gonna say that there are people in our community that are struggling with the physiological needs. Better yet, the safety and particularly the bottom two, safety needs. I mean, physiological needs and safety needs. As far as when you talk about people on YouTube and people within the Black community, we have a very large percentage of people that don't function consistently in those areas. And I'm gonna give you examples. When there are people who cannot take care of themselves financially, or their family, or if they have kids. So that they're struggling at the bottom just to maintain shelter, food, clothing, water, sleep, clothing. Sex. There are people struggling at that level. And there are people who've been exposed on YouTube who were certain levels of content creator and found out that they're living with somebody else, or they can't keep a job, or they've been fired, they've been homeless, and things of that sort. So, I mean, and so that was one of the main reasons I decided to come up and kind of give more nuance to the hierarchy of needs, because the manner in which it's taught and the manner in which I use it to assess the level of where somebody is functioning in therapy. Um, when we're looking at a person's level of functioning in their environment, I have a lot of clients and people that I've interacted with that barely can get past the first level. And then when we're talking about safety, personal security, employment, health, their property, they're people that move around a lot. They don't have stable employment and they don't have stable home. You don't have a stable residence. They move around a lot. They're making they don't pay their bills. You know, they came on YouTube as a means to hopefully be able to pay their bills and have a supplement to the income that they have, or lack thereof. So, in our essence, if you don't have physiological needs and safety needs, it's going to be very difficult for you to get to the level of love and belonging where you're having proper friendships, intimacy, family, sense of connection. It's hard to connect if you're not functioning at those other two levels. And that's the reason why when people don't function in these areas and they try to have relationships and not focus on getting their stuff together before they try to become part of somebody else's life, those relationships don't work.
No, I definitely agree with that, even though
they don't work. Yeah.
Right. I mean, how can they? And that was mentioned on both of the videos. So you're saying that you see a large population of people that are struggling is presented as the first level. However, it's the last. And that's what you said, your basic needs. And if that's the case, to me, that's frightening.
Yeah.
In 2023.
It is. And so, and I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, there are people that struggle to have these things. I've gave support to people who lost their apartment, living in hotels. I've given money to ladies that couldn't even afford to buy their own child Pampers and milk.
Wow.
Those are physiological needs. You see,
yes.
this is stuff that and they can be on here doing content. They can talk so much crap, and they'd be some of the biggest roasters, and then you find out, hey guys, I got evicted and I don't know where to go. I don't have nothing to do. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Can you please donate to me? This is my Cash App. And I know you've seen that before.
I have, but I try really hard not to bring more light to a already stressful situation.
Down. But see, this is the issue, and this is the thing that I talk about. A person in that position should not be on YouTube talking smack to people. And a person like that on YouTube should not be spending 8 to 10 hours a day on YouTube. You should be trying to develop yourself and get yourself out the rut that you're in so that you don't repeat it. And these are the type of people that get on here and they present themselves and create false narratives about themselves that are not true. This is the reason why I don't like to speak in psychological terms about certain behaviors you see, because some of these people are presenting themselves in ways that's not real. It's not who they are. The circumstances that they're operating in are totally separate from what the reality is. You have people who you think own mansions, but you find out that they were renting it. They living in an Airbnb. I mean, you have people that going from hotel to hotel, motel to motel. They're not even covering the basic physiological needs. When you get up, I'm gonna say this:
yes.
The average functional person that's, let's say, maybe working the middle class, most people, when it gets to the love and belonging, they're usually in that part, and then maybe it's like 50-50 who have a healthy high or have a good self-esteem or not. There are people who have lots of money who are successful that don't have high esteem, high self-esteem. So it's not just merely relegated to the fact of how much money you have and where you are in your profession. So when we're talking about the end result of being self-actualized, you have to have mastered the previous four and function at all of those in an effortless manner. Very few people in the world are self-actualized.
Absolutely. And would you say the same when it comes to the crown, where it comes to the chakras, which is the last, the crown, the
Yes,
pinnacle?
yes. Most people are not going to accomplish that. Very few people are truly self-actualized, which, by the way, can be a lifelong journey. You know, being self-actualized is almost like a because those who are truly self-actualized, they are comfortable with making decisions and doing things irregardless of what other people think and say. They are not easy to influence. They make good decisions. They're able to function in any environment, whether it's crisis or everything is going well. They still are able to function and thrive at a certain level. A person who is unable to do that is not self-actualized.
And for those with supporters who see, and I'll use this word lightly, some dysfunction and say nothing, are they as much to blame as the person who's behind the mic or avatar themselves? Is it collective, or is the onus always on the person speaking, or perhaps the character that is speaking?
Okay, that's a good question. If another person is witnesses and sees it and they don't say anything about it,
Yes.
well, that person is not being a good friend. But at the end of the day, the onus does go on the person himself. We all are responsible for ourselves. We can't blame somebody else whether they make you aware of it, not for your own faults. Although if that person is really in your best interest, they would make you aware of that. But at the end of the day, we all have to be responsible for ourselves. A person who's self-actualized will always take accountability and be accountable and accept, their flaws or accept whatever consequences come of their behavior. But a person who's self-actualized, when those things happen, will also develop a level of problem solving to resolve or prevent that from happening again.
And for those who don't, would you say that is an internal issue, or is it innate? Meaning, or you already know what innate means, but for those who may not have heard that, it's them. And no matter what lessons they may glean, they may not be able to help themselves. It's who they are, and nothing you do, or nothing you say will change them. What do? Do you just let them crash out, or just pray that one day they'll finally see for themselves? You know what? This may not be the route I should go. Perhaps I should make a detour.
Okay. A person who is basically not at that level, okay, will basically, have to, are not able to deal with certain issues in life that come about. They're not able to basically adjust in a sense as far as a person who's more self-actualized. But at the same time, just because you're not self-actualized don't mean that you're not functional. That doesn't mean that you still can't function and do things in real life. What it basically means is that you're kind of at a level where you may maybe be stagnant, or you may go back and forth. At certain times you may um be able to function real high, and then other times you may not, depending on what happens in life, whatever is affecting you. You're not always at an optimal level at all times. We are human. We are uh we do make mistakes, and if life presents things that bring us down, it basically brings us down, and then we have to work our way up. So it's always a constant. It's a constant. There are those who may have high esteem, but something may have happened where they got in a bad relationship, and the person that they were was with, you know, negatively affected their self-esteem. So now they're back at struggling with getting love and belonging from someone, or struggling to take care of basic safety and physical needs and physiological needs. So it all depends on the situations that occur. It can all be interchangeable based on what you are experiencing in life.
That's that's good stuff right there. So my last question to you before I close this out, for those that may find themselves struggling at the very first, which is the last item on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the physiological, what professional advice would you give those as it relates to social media and just life, period? Especially those that may have been identified as addicted, or perhaps others may see them as being addicted, or know of situations where those needs need attention.
Okay, so as we talk about this and kind of combining it with addiction, a person who is self-actualized doesn't need validation from other people. They are comfortable with merely having uh, validation of oneself. Now, when it comes to addiction, there's key things that we have to look at, and understanding that one is addicted. And that's the fact that if a person is addicted, there's a disruption in their own personal life as it affects some of the other needs that are listed. Like a person, may affect the fact that they came to work late, they lost their job due to social media. Um, they're not bathing or eating because they're tied up with being on social media. It's some of the things that are extreme at that extreme level that would put a person on a level of potentially being addicted. It's no difference than if somebody was on drugs, and being on drugs lowered your ability to function in all domains of your life, whether it's family, basic needs, hygiene, health needs, relationships. It, addicted to social media can also produce some of the same behaviors, because a person that's truly addicted, there will be some disruptions in your personal life as it involves the things that I just listed. So if you find yourself where you're not spending time with people you usually spend time with, you lost your boyfriend or girlfriend because of social media, because you're not spending no much time with them. You may have lost your job to social media, and you're still on it regardless of losing your job. Those are signs of potential addiction. And now, and as we equate that to the hierarchy of needs, it causes disruptions in the physiological needs, safety needs, and love and belonging.
Wow, you've just summed up a lot of what I've seen, and I'm sure because I've listened to you, um, a lot of people are going through that. So I would never personally shame anyone. It's just I get really concerned when I see a lot of that happening. I know at one point, because of negativity, I had to log off for a bit because it started to get to me because I don't like to see people hurt or suffering. And even though people have made shots to me, whether they've been subliminal or downright at me, again, the only thing I do is pray for them because I know or I believe that it's coming from another place, and you really can't control how others think or feel. But I do believe that a lot of this may be coming from places people aren't even aware of. So that's why I always caution, if you continue to go or venture to dark places, eventually, and it's just my opinion, that it's going to rub off on you, especially if you may not be strong enough to pull yourself out of it. And that's just my opinion on that.
Right, right, right. So, and so, in essence, and I'm really glad that, because I like to talk about, because it's like Maslow's hierarchy of needs is really a very basic a model, but it's
Yeah,
very powerful because it kind of outlines where you are in life. And, you know, it can fluctuate based on what's going on in your life. But
absolutely.
the issue where people struggle the most is when we start getting into I'm just saying the average person that's just basically functional. They have a job, they have a home, they pretty much covered safety and the physiological stuff. The issue when you hear people talking about relationships and love, like the love and belonging aspect, there's a lot of people that struggle and maintain that. And then we're talking then in having healthy high, having a healthy level of self-esteem, how you feel about yourself in a positive manner and not allowing others to disrupt your self-esteem. And there's a lot of people who were perfectly fine with their self-esteem, and they're easily influenced or hurt by somebody, then that self-esteem crashes down. And in therapy, you learn to, if that's a focal point, strategies and ways to minimize or avoid that from occurring, regardless of who you're with and how connected you are together.
This is awesome. It's very rare that I speak to many
Hello?
people are aware of Maslow's hierarchy of needs and basic model. However, sometimes the basics are a good tool or a good blueprint, at least to start at, or at least to gauge where you may be on these particular pyramids or charts. It's not a Bible or a go-to, but as you said, and in my opinion, a layman's opinion, it's good to gauge to see where you may be or where you actually may fall. And if you do a true emphasis on the word true self-assessment of self, you may be able then to adjust or modify some of those behaviors that have been outlined. Not sure how you think on that, but those are my opinions as it relates to the hierarchy of needs. And there are many different charts, but that's one of the most prevalent ones. Again, I asked the trivia question earlier, who was the author of that? And it was Abraham Maslow back in 1943.
Right. And
And
that
one, go ahead. I'm sorry, sir.
and Maslow's hierarchy of needs is not only taught in counseling and psychology, but it's also a framework for a lot of other disciplines outside of psychology. And that's just how popular I've seen it taught in sociology. I've seen it taught in education, and other different disciplines where they do review this hierarchy of needs. So it is a very, very popular model that people use to assess human behavior.
Now, because you work with so many people, would you say that this is also important in the workplace? Because I'm sure you do a lot of reading, but one of the books that I read when I first started my quote unquote good government job years ago was a book, and I forgot the author, but it was entitled Who Moved My Cheese? Do you remember that book? Have you ever heard of that?
Who moved what?
Who Moved My Cheese? It's
No,
a book.
I've never heard of it, unfortunately.
Yes, it's a book that is good for managers or first line managers or supervisors, but that is coined, if you will, a module for the business world or management. So I think that could possibly go hand in hand.
Right,
Because
right.
as
Okay,
yes,
I agree.
so Maslow's, and when we spoke about in the video, when they were talking about, and this was the chakras, the breathing, can you go over that just a little?
Well, when the person talked about breathing, what they're talking about is they talked about diaphragmic breathing, which is basically a part of what we call relaxation techniques or progressive relaxation techniques. And so the basis of the diaphragmic breathing is to help one relax or to help one calm down or to gain composure when they're in an uncomfortable or compromising position, so that you can regain what you're thinking, what you're feeling. You don't want to get out of control. You don't want to feel stressed or tense. You just want to breathe in and out slowly and deeply to gain back a baseline level of emotion. Meaning that the way you carry yourself or just the way you behave on average most of the time is where you're trying to get. You're trying to be at a stable level, not a heightened level where you may be talking too fast or saying words or just getting heated or angry or too overly emotional. So that's the purpose of diaphragmic breathing.
And you mentioned that you do that now in some of your sessions. What is what's the word I'm looking for? Your success rate in that, because that's something that I do as far as my anxiety, but sometimes I have to be honest. It depends on what level it is.
Right.
It doesn't
Now,
always work. It doesn't
I'm,
always
I'm
work.
glad I'm glad you brought that up. So
Thank you.
I'm gonna tell you something that can help with that.
Okay.
Okay, so this is what I teach so the purpose of when we're talking about diaphragmic or breathing progressive relaxation techniques. The purpose is the I'm not the purpose, but to increase the effectability of it being more effective is that when you identify initially the signs of you becoming anxious or that you're having an anxiety attack. So we don't want to wait till you've already are feeling overly anxiety or overly anxious to do it, because at that point it's going to take longer and you have to be, I would say, more polished at practicing it and giving it time. But to increase the effectiveness, you want to do it initially when you're experiencing some of the telltale signs that you may be getting anxious or stressed. We don't want to wait until it's already there. We want to catch it before it builds up to that point. And so the minute you're in an environment or a situation and you're experiencing some level of stimuli interaction that's making you feel jittery or something, or you feel that it's coming, that's the time to start breathing and relaxing and things like that. Don't wait till you allow it to already come and you're already shaking and sweating or, kind of out there to try to remember, because it's very difficult to bring yourself down after you've already gotten to a heightened point or stress or anxious related point. So the key is to catch it when you see the telltale signs or the warning signs, not when it's already there, because it's not that you can't bring yourself from it once it's there. It's just it takes longer and it's more difficult.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So sometimes, well, at least I know with me, and it really depends. I do pretty well with it, but you're absolutely right with that. I have found that it takes maybe double the time, and that's just for me to bring myself down. And it's almost like, and I'm very transparent about this, it's like there are times where I've actually forgotten how to do those breathing techniques where you do it to
Yeah,
a diaphragm. And I'm like, okay, I've done it backwards. And it's like you get so stressed out, you forget everything. And then you have
yeah.
to calm
It's hard
yourself
to
down. You're
remember.
absolutely right.
It's hard to remember the steps when you're already in an anxious mindset.
Yes,
And that's very common. There are a lot of people that tell me it's hard to do it once I'm already, yeah, because the point of it is to prevent you from getting to that point. So the the purpose or the main focus should be on when you identify. To me, really, avoidance is, to me, minimization and avoidance are the main strategies. Avoid situations that potentially lead to stress, anxiety, but are when avoid those, or you at least minimize it, those situations. And even when you can't do it and you have to experience it, the minute you start to identify those triggers. And so what I would ask in a situation like that, though, is what's occurring when you're starting to feel anxious? Is your mind racing? Are you kind of hyperventilating? Are you sweating? Are you shaking? Are you feeling hot? Or is your heart pounding? The minute you may experience one of those symptoms, that's when it's time to start doing those exercises. The minute you start experiencing it or feel that it's coming, that is a key moment to diffuse that by using those steps while you're already at a mind state where you can actually remember and exercise those steps. Because the minute you're at that level and you already at that high point, you're going to forget everything. It's going to be hard to do it.
absolutely. But that, well, I don't want to say but because then it defeats the purpose. But for those, I'll just say it again, for those that are constantly on the go and juggling and responsible for a lot of things, it's often difficult and sometimes it'll creep up on you. I find strength in that, but then once everything that I have to take care of has been taken care of, then I find myself in that situation where I'm like, okay, now I've got to calm down. And I'm
Right.
really good at wearing masks most of the time. Not all of the time, but most of the time. But I feel like now that I'm older and when I sit down and do my true self assessment of myself, I feel as though I'm doing myself a disservice.
Right. You are kind of doing yourself a disservice, because what's happening is that you have to recognize those situations and don't repeat them. So if you know you're in those situations and you're not going to function, you're putting yourself in a position not to succeed. You're actually making it harder for you to thrive. So you have to recognize that maybe I shouldn't be in these environments or in this situation or at this time or whatever, because if I do, this is what's going to happen. And so then once you get to that level, now you're trying to um now you're trying to rethink about what I did wrong or what I should do different.
Yes, and another
Things
thing
like
that
that.
I
You're trying to correct. You're trying to reflect on things in a way in which how could I correct that? But the way to correct it is to basically minimize that the situations that lead to that.
yes, and because I I coin myself as being a perfectionist when I'm out at work. I get really angry if I make the smallest mistake and I find myself beating myself up, which
Right,
also brings on anxiety, at least for
right,
me. I'm not sure about others, but for me, and I've done this for years though. I do not like making mistakes. Mistakes I know is normal, but I don't know what it is about me, but I have to have everything right. If not, I feel like, okay, I failed at this, even though it's something minuscule.
right,
The way my mind thinks, even though it's minuscule, I make it out to be something huge.
right.
And
So
that's
being
something I
that
can't get past or I haven't been able to.
right, so being that that those small mistakes and you make them out, you make something that's very minuscule and you're making it out to be bigger than what it is. Let's think about what are the results or the consequences of those mistakes. You see, something that's not necessarily a big deal, what are you? That means that the consequences of those things are not necessarily meaningful or effective. So I would encourage when you have those situations, look at okay, like I'm really acting like this, but it doesn't really affect anything in my life, or it doesn't affect my job, or it doesn't affect, yeah, I made a mistake, but what is the actual effect of that mistake? You
Absolutely. And it's really nothing, but it's the it's the bars that I put for myself. And I don't think there's anything wrong with raising the bar to achieve and be the best that you can be. But I think just for me, I've raised it so high that if I fall even just a tick below, then I'm ready to say, you know what, I've
okay?
screwed up. No one
So
else
that
is
means
saying that.
so
It's just
so
me.
so we have to look at in is my bar realistic or is it unrealistic?
I would think most people would say that's quite unrealistic. But again, my mind says it's realistic. I think a lot
Okay,
different
but
from
even
me.
though your mind is saying that, we have to look at it logically and rationally. Rationally speaking, even though your mind is telling you that, if you're evaluating, like let's say if you do the work, these are my goals. This is the bar. And we review each aspect of what you put as a standard. We have to reevaluate, even though your mind is saying it, you can go back and course correct what your mind is saying by understanding what the reality is. Because yes, your mind can initially see what your mind is telling you is an initial reaction to the way you're functioning. But if you want to change that mindset, you have to in some way visually or mentally look at what would be reasonable goals and reasonable standards. Because we don't we if we know that those standards are not realistic, why do we continue to just feed into those unrealistic expectations? Because basically you're going to constantly repeat doing it if you don't change it. So
Absolutely.
you have to mentally change that.
It's a work in progress, but
Yeah,
ever
it is.
since
But
I
I'm just
began working,
yeah,
yes,
like
I've
and
been
so
like this years.
what I would propose is literally writing those goals, writing those standards, and you visually adjusting them.
Okay.
Like whatever those standards are. Like say, make zero mistakes on this paperwork. Now we know making zero mistakes is not realistic. But if
Right.
you said, okay, let's say I make no more than 5 mistakes a week. on whatever. Now that's more reasonable. You're still going to make mistakes. It's not at a high level, it's at a low level, but you still understanding that I can potentially make mistakes, as opposed to making zero mistakes, which is unreasonable. So that's the difference.
Absolutely. That is too funny, but I have been like this since I started work at age 17. I
Right?
started learning, and I think it's because I achieved and excelled at a young age. And I think that's where for me, it all began. So
Okay.
each each level, if you will, I put more pressure on myself. Nobody has other than me. And that's the funny part about it. Yes, I know certain things are expected, but I've added to it. So again, those are things that I have to work on. But it's just funny that you said that, because I do deep breathing exercises, but I know when I'm hit with a situation that may lead to a anxiety episode, I
Right?
forget everything. It's like right out the window, completely out the window. Even though I'm aware, if that makes sense, I'm aware of everything that's going on, but at that time, at that when I'm in or going through rather, everything that I'm aware of is forgotten. And then once I'm brought down, everything is fine again. It's bizarre. It's bizarre, but I guess maybe that's just part of it.
Right, right, right. So yeah, I mean, but again, it does require work. And if you wanted to change that, you would have to go to, kind of look at some of the strategies that I just presented. If you want to maybe not continue to do that, it's not too late to change.
Absolutely. I agree with
Yeah,
that. And
right.
come Monday, I will have my pad with me. Um, and I'll put that down. No, because I never thought of that. That's actually a very good idea. And I know we all make mistakes. I mean, in writing, you could transpose letters, numbers. I mean, that's
Right.
human.
Yes.
It wouldn't be a delete key, backspace, whiteout, or any of that if mistakes were not going to occur. But it's just the way I've conditioned myself at a younger age. And it's just, it's been a long time trying to get out of that.
Right.
But that's
Right.
interesting. I'll have to look into that. But this has
Mhm.
been a very interesting and deep conversation as to how both of these different, even though they're different, they're similar in a way. These needs and these chakras, the colors, the energy levels in certain parts of the body. Again, as you said, most people will not reach self actualization in the hierarchy of needs. And if we venture over to the chakras, most people may not reach the crown. And to
Right.
me,
That's
that's
great.
do you think that is self-defeating, or is it just reality that people who study these different types of forms of psychology, would they become not depressed, but would that motivate them, or would that deter them from at least attempting to reach both of those, respectively?
Well, as far as being self-actualized, we want to understand that in becoming self-actualized is a life goal. So most people don't achieve it, but if you don't achieve it, that's nothing to sneak. It's not nothing to be ashamed about. It's just the fact that things occur in your life that usually things happen at times that make it difficult for you to get there. And if most people were self-actualized, the world would be a totally different place. So it's basically the tip at the top. Most people don't get at the tip of the top or function at optimal level. That's just not the way the world works. This is not how it is as human beings. But I
Right.
do think that it presents a theoretical means to understand where you are in life, and are you where you need to be at the age that you are. And if you are a grown person and you can't take care of your physiological and safety needs, that's a problem. Now, a kid, let's just say if you use this for a child is not capable of providing these things for themselves, but adults are. So this is applicable for adults to be able to do these things independently on their own.
But let me ask you this. There are many adults, and I am not shaming anyone because I've been in situations. I mean, I have situations often, but what if you are an adult and find yourself struggling, perhaps loss of job, a sudden illness, or having to take care of an ill family member, and your whole paradigm has changed, your whole way of living has changed? Do you place labels on these adults, or do you give them wiggle room because of these unforeseen circumstances, or do you look at them as bums or losers? And I don't really like using those terms, but but some people say that. Some people say that.
Okay, if it is a repetitive cycle of losing your job over and over and over again, there's a problem. But if it's just a situation that was not indicative of your history of being employed, then I would look at it differently. And it's okay, because just because you don't function, you drop levels or down the pyramid, you can work your way back up. So it's not the end of the world. If you go from self-esteem down to not being able to take care of safety needs for whatever reasons, you can pick yourself up again and get back there. But it's again, it's all relative to what's going on in your life, what you're experiencing, how life is at this point in the stage of your life based on your age. Um, you know, um, a person can have a healthcare scare that can
Yes.
take you from being self-actualized to now you can't do anything for yourself and you back at the bottom. I mean, but that wasn't your fault. That was just a healthcare scare that are a disease or illness that that basically cause you not debilitated you to be back at that point. And so that's not anybody's fault. It just so happened you may have had a stroke, you had a heart attack, some illness, that prohibits you from being at the level that you once were. That's nobody's fault. It's just that's just a issue that life presents itself, where you can't prepare for things like that. Even if you were, it's still difficult to deal with. So there's a lot of variables. That's why I say that even though those needs and the levels exist, they're interchangeable based on what's going on in your life. What's the current status of your life, what you're experiencing.
Absolutely. And that's perfect, because I wanted to do, and maybe I'm not sure if this is something that you've thought about or you've even done in your sessions. I would like to do a live, or if there's something again you would like to do, is talk about, because we have many people on here, myself included, over 50. You have some 60, some 70 that are still going strong. But one of the things that I've noticed that really hasn't been talked about a lot is what to do when you're starting to reach your quote unquote golden years, where you have to start prepare to plan for your transition. I know
Right.
that at my age and at my older cousin's age, I spoke to her the other day. She was very upset because um, a lot of her friends have passed on. Um, all of the aunts and uncles are gone. So those are things I think people in the late 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s are experiencing, and they may not know how to handle. I'm just going to say getting old, because
Right.
when you get older, things don't work quite the same. Some people may not even be able to drive anymore. They may not even know what resources are available to them. So I think that would be a good build. I don't know what you think about that, but because you're still a young, strapping man, but for those that are getting older, I think these are conversations that, in my opinion, should be had, because people are getting older, but these conversations people don't really want to have because it's uncomfortable. It may even be frightening.
Right. Exactly. So that, I mean, that happens. I mean, at this point in time, I mean, you do want to plan for things, and you gotta look at the stage you are in life, where you want to be. A lot of people don't plan, but I think that's part of you being realistic about things and being
And it
honest
only came
about
to
it.
me, yeah, when my cousin had fallen and I had to help take care of her. And I am not a caregiver, but hats off to those in that profession, because that right there, that time frame, I think it was 2 months, I must have aged about 10 years, because I mean, I felt like a home healthcare aide, even though one did come. You're more comfortable with family, but seeing someone in a vulnerable state is difficult. And
Right.
asking questions like, well, I can't drive to this place. And I'm like, well, you can get um, free transportation. You have top rate insurance. So I had to call the, what is it, Department of Aging Services, I think. And there was a lot of information that I found out. But again, these are things that I did not know until I was put impromptu in that situation. So I would like to do a build on that. No time soon, but that's just something I think that's important, because as you get older, you're going to face those things.
Right. That's correct. Those are things you have to look at. This is, I'm gonna have to deal with this at this age, and having life insurance, having health insurance, having short-term disability, long-term disability,
Yes,
having estate planning. That's a reality.
it
You know
is.
that that's a reality of life.
It is, and I don't know if you've seen it, but I've seen many, many GoFundMe's when people's loved ones have actually passed away. And the government only gives, I don't know what it is now, but back in the day, it was 255. You can't even get an urn for 255.
Right.
My little doggy's remains, which I have right next to me, that was more than what the government used to give. So these are things I think, and yes, it's uncomfortable. No one wants to speak about it, but to me, these conversations should be held in context, of course, but proper planning to me helps to alleviate um, more of a devastating situation, at least in my opinion.
Right. Yeah. Those things have to be looked at, and so um, I also would like you to look at. There's another and then you may want to do content on this. Have you ever heard of Eric Erickson?
No.
Um, if you look at Eric Erickson's psychosocial stages of development, it kind of talks about the stages one's at when they're, like when you're middle age, kind of approaching, after 65, and it kind of talks about the issues of each stage of life, where
Yes.
you're at and where you should be, the things you think about. and it kind of details those psychosocial stages of development. Kind of details where you should be at and what you're thinking about at that age, at those ages. So it just basically looks at how you develop over time from the time you're a child up until you're at the certain levels of your life at the towards the end. and
Yes.
and it gives reference to, and this is basic psychology, um so it kind of talks about where you are and where you should be, and the things that you think about in those ages. So
Eric Erickson. So is that spelled with a C
K,
or a K?
it's a K.
Okay. Eric Erickson. I will definitely look into that because I wanted to get some resources to my cousin because she calls often and I find myself having to Google and make phone calls. But that too, to be honest, Coach D, has been a stressor because I'm family. Brothers, unfortunately, I don't really want to talk about them, but um, she does rely on me a lot. I have my own issues, but I can't turn away. But that is extremely stressful. Having to take time out from the things that I'm doing, and I had to cut things back because of my own issues to find out information for her. And another hurdle is um, she needs to, in my opinion, downgrade where everything is on one level and there's an easy access, but she doesn't want to do that.
Hmm.
So that's kind of like an issue as well. And a couple of cousins have tried to speak to her as well, but she's not having it. But every time there's an emergency, it's a problem, you know, getting outside of the residence. So
Right.
it's a lot, and it's stressful when you're
Yes.
dealing with older relatives, especially those who are still very much coherent but stuck in their you know what ways.
Right. Exactly. I can relate to that. I definitely understand. um my father is 86,
Oh wow,
and
bless his heart.
yeah, and he still drives. He gets along well. He don't have any major health issues, but he is stuck in his ways and a lot of things. We try to get him to we're trying to talk to him about at some point, and I know for him what makes it difficult is the fact that he's very functional
Yes,
at 86. I mean, he basically gets around well. He gets around like he's still in his 60s or
yes,
50s.
and my cousin does for the most part. Sometimes not as much, but she still does. She can do everything for herself, even though someone does come in to assist. But still, for the most part, she can do what she wants to do. And there have been times where, can you pick this up? Can you pick that up? And I'll go ahead and stop what I'm doing. And when I get there, I see stacks and stacks of lottery tickets. I'm like, okay, your butt got out. Your butt got out to get those because she knows I won't do that because I'm not into gambling. So she knows not
Right,
to ask me for that anymore. So she still has her little slick ways
right.
about
It's
her.
funny you said that because my dad showed me something where they was trying to um someone was trying to, I don't know if it was a little scam or something, where it was something similar to like a publishing clearinghouse where they said you're going to get this money and you got
Oh,
to do this,
wow.
and I had to read that for him because he didn't really understand and know it, but because he was trying to read it and understand it and stuff, and I'm like, no, Dad, it's you probably didn't win. They just trying to, there are
They
people that
still
try to
have
exploit
that.
the elderly.
I remember a publishing clearinghouse years ago. They still have that?
Yeah.
Wow. No, she is definitely into what is it? Mega Millions, Powerball, and what else is it? Lotto or whatever. And
Okay.
Yeah, she would always, if I would go with her, drop something off, a care package, she would leave an envelope with money in there and two slips of paper with all of the numbers. Box this, a dollar straight on that. And I'm like, you know what? And this was the last time I did. I said, I'm not doing this anymore. I don't gamble. I don't believe in it. I'm not judging you, but stop doing that. And I was looking at the papers, and when I went to the gas station to play those numbers for her, that gas station attendant looked at me like, what the hell is wrong with you? And I'm like, it is not me. This is my cousin. I was so embarrassed. I started sweating. People in the line were getting mad because I had to read the numbers out, and I said, no more. You will
Right.
not hem me up again. But I mean, she gets joy out of that. But again, getting older, and I think you're absolutely right. That would be excellent content. Um, there are things that do change. What if you can't do certain things for yourself anymore? And then think about how they may feel. We're
Right.
talking about it being uncomfortable for us, but it has to be a level of discomfort, perhaps maybe embarrassment for them, having
Exactly.
having to ask.
Yeah, I agree.
So if you have nothing else, I don't. I think this was an excellent overview of, again, both Maslow's hierarchy of needs and chakras, and some behavior issues and how they correlate with both.
Exactly. And I appreciate you for doing the topic. And I like talking about these types of things because this is like a common thing that I enjoy discussing. It kind of, because I do um, review this particular. That's other ones too that I kind of may look at um, and kind of relate back to it with certain situations to kind of understand situations and kind of um, assess where I'm going, where a person is, and so from time to time I do look at this particular paradigm, and
Awesome.
it is definitely helpful.
Well, I'm glad that to foster some type of help to someone out there. So when do you plan on going live again? I know you fired up.
I went live earlier today. I'm probably not going to go live again until probably tomorrow.
Okay. What will the topic be? Will it be sector news?
Um, that's a good question. I think I'm going to work on. On my Life Solutions channel, I talked about maybe doing some content on nutritional
Oh,
effects of mental health.
oh, that would
And,
be awesome. Yes.
yeah, and I'm also going to do, if I don't do that one, I may do the one about how to deal with family members who are financially dependent on you and are always asking you for money. That was actually requested by a content creator. So
Now, you and I, when we had our interview, when I talked about that and how that to me ruined my relationship.
yes.
Do you remember that? Oh, now
Yeah,
you're
I
laughing at
remember
me.
that.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. You're laughing. Oh, my goodness. I can laugh at it now, but trust me, I wasn't then. But yes, I would love to hear that.
Yeah,
If
I
you
mean, I
did that.
remember because it's funny you brought it up because I was thinking, yeah, we did talk about that, and you
Yes.
you asked a lot of questions about that, and
But it
I
was
get it,
real.
I understand because I've been there, so I can relate.
That would be awesome. Well, I have my notification bells on, so I'd be very interested into hearing what others have to say and your take on that even further, because I think it happens more than what people really like to share because it's not comfortable. And some
No, it's
people may
not.
say something negative because, again, we all like to believe that if we can be the best we can be, we can change things. But unfortunately, after wasting all of that time, I did nothing really except um, probably, as I said, run off decent people, and that just prolonged the inevitable.
Right, I get it. I mean, I understand it happens. You know, we can learn from it.
Well,
Alrighty. So that's pretty much it. That's it.
that's it for me.
Alrighty. Well, thank you so much. I'm gonna go ahead and get going, and I'm just gonna chill out, watch some TV. I mean, get something to eat, and you know, just kind of relax and get ready to be heading out tomorrow. But other than that, I may see you around. I won't be going live again until probably tomorrow. I'm gonna say if I go live, it's gonna be around 7 o'clock or something like that.
And you're an hour before or behind?
I'm an hour behind you.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll just look for the notification bells.
All right. Well, you have a great day.
You too. And
Peace.
thank you for coming up, Coach G. Bye
All right.
bye.
Bye-bye.
Everyone, that was Coach D. Durrell. He's been on several times. He is a licensed therapist. And we just finished discussing Maslow'S hierarchy of needs and the 7 chakras and other behavioral issues. I will leave his links in the description for those who may be interested in visiting his channels. He has several of them. And for those of you who will catch the replay, please be sure to leave any comments you may have. Thank you, everyone, tremendously for stopping by, listening in, and for those who did leave comments, thank you to you as well. Enjoy the remainder of your evening. Perhaps it's morning, depending upon where you are on the globe. And until next time, everyone, be safe, be well, and you know the rest, be healthier. Until next time, bye-bye for now. And let me get this last comment up. Hey there, Moonlight. Too bad you just came in. But hold on for a minute, Moonlight. There you go. Next time I go live, you'll be able to connect with everyone. So again, as I mentioned, everyone be safe, be well, and you know the rest. Be healthier. Until next time.